If you're just starting to watch this story now, take a deep breath because what I'm about to tell you is something I never imagined would happen in my own house under my own roof while I was at work trying to provide a better life for my family. What I found out completely changed my life, and maybe it will change yours too. Especially if you're a parent who has to be away from your kids for work. Sometimes we think we know the people closest to us, but there are hidden things that only come to light when we least expect them. If you're connecting with my story, please hit the like button to bring a little sunshine to this father's heart. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss my next life stories. And tell me in the comments where you're watching this video from and what time it is there right now. It makes me really happy to know which corner of the country or the world is listening to me and what time of day it is for you. My name is Robert Dodson. I'm 35 years old, and I work as a warehouse supervisor in a mid-sized city in the Midwest. For the past 8 months, I've been working the night shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., managing inventory and logistics while trying to provide the best life I could for my family. My wife Nedra worked as a medical billing specialist at a local clinic, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. We had what looked like a normal, stable life. A modest 3-bedroom house in a decent neighborhood. A 20-year-old son named Troy who was in his second year at community college, studying graphic design and still living at home to save money. From the outside, we probably looked like any other American family trying to make it work. 2 parents working hard, raising a young adult, paying the mortgage, planning for the future. But 3 weeks ago, on a Tuesday night that started like any other, everything I thought I knew about my family shattered into a million pieces. My wife told me I was overreacting. I'm 35, and 3 weeks ago on that Tuesday night, she said it while standing in our kitchen, arms crossed, her voice sharp enough to cut through steel. Robert, you're being paranoid. Troy's fine. Our son was sitting at the dinner table behind her, 20 years old, with dark circles under his eyes that made his caramel brown skin look almost gray. There were bruises on his arms, purple and yellow-green marks in various stages of healing, that he kept trying to hide under his long sleeves. Every time he shifted in his chair, I could see him wince slightly, like his body hurt in places I couldn't see. I pointed at the bruises, my voice tight with concern and growing anger. Then explain those, Nedra. Explain why our son has bruises all over his arms. Nedra didn't even look at Troy. She kept her eyes fixed on me, her expression cold and controlled in a way that made my skin crawl. He's a young man. Young men get bruises. They play basketball at the rec center. They work out at the gym. They roughhouse with friends. You'd know that if you were home more often instead of working nights and sleeping all day. My sister Maya, who was visiting for dinner, whispered something to me under her breath. Something about those bruises looking like finger marks, like someone had grabbed Troy hard enough to leave impressions. But before I could respond, Nedra cut her off with a voice that could freeze water. This is between me and my husband, Maya. Robert works nights, so he doesn't see what I have to deal with every single day. He doesn't see the immaturity, the lack of responsibility, the constant need for guidance. He comes home for a few hours and wants to play good cop while I'm stuck being the one who actually parents. She looked at Troy then, and I saw my son immediately drop his eyes to his plate, his whole body tensing like he was bracing for impact. This young man needs discipline. Structure. Not someone questioning my parenting every time he comes home from work and second-guessing everything I do. Maya stood up, her nurse's instincts clearly screaming that something was very wrong. Nedra, those bruises look like what? Nedra interrupted, her voice rising now, taking on an edge of defensiveness that I'd never heard before. Like I'm doing my job as a mother? Yes, they do. Someone has to teach this boy how to be a man, how to handle life, how to not be a weak, dependent mess every time something doesn't go his way. She turned to me then, and I saw something in her eyes that I didn't recognize. Something cold, something cruel. You think you can just leave me here alone to raise him? Work your convenient night shifts where you don't have to deal with the actual hard parts of parenting an adult child who should have his life together by now, and then come home and judge me? You think you can waltz in here and question how I handle things when you're not even around to see what I'm dealing with? I felt my jaw tighten, my hands clenching into fists at my sides. I work nights so we can keep this house, Nedra. So we can pay the mortgage and the bills and help Troy get through college without student loans. That's not convenient. That's called providing for my family. And I work every single night, she shot back, her voice dripping with venom now. "Every single night while you're gone, making sure your son doesn't turn into a weak, pathetic failure who can't handle the real world. Someone has to toughen him up. Someone has to make him into a man. And since you're too busy working your night shifts to do it, that someone has to be me." Troy's fork clattered against his plate, the sound impossibly loud in the sudden silence. His whole body was trembling now, his shoulders hunched, his breathing quick and shallow like he was trying not to draw any more attention to himself. Nedra pointed at him, her finger jabbing toward him like an accusation. "See? This is exactly what I mean. Look at him. He's 20 years old, and he's still terrified of everything. Still acts like a child. Still can't stand up for himself. That's what happens when fathers coddle their sons instead of teaching them to be strong." Maya grabbed her purse, her face flushed with anger and disbelief. "Robert, can I talk to you outside? Please." Before I could answer, before I could even process what was happening, Nedra stepped between us, physically blocking Maya's path to the door. "No. Whatever you need to say to my husband, you can say it right here in front of me. Robert needs to hear the truth. Troy is too soft, too emotional, too dependent. And every single time Robert's home, he makes it worse by treating him like he's still a teenager instead of a grown man who needs to take responsibility for his life." She walked closer to me then, invading my space, her voice dropping to something quiet and cold and absolutely final. "Either you trust me to parent our son the way he needs to be parented, the way that will prepare him for the real world instead of enabling his weakness, or you can find somewhere else to sleep tonight. Your choice, Robert. Support me as your wife and Troy's mother, or get out." Maya stared at her in complete disbelief, her mouth opening and closing like she couldn't find words for what she was witnessing. I looked past Nedra at Troy, who was crying silently now, tears streaming down his caramel-brown face, his shoulders shaking with the effort of trying to cry without making any sound, his whole body turned down toward the table like he was trying to make himself invisible. Nedra didn't even turn around to look at him. She kept her eyes locked on mine, waiting for my answer, while our son fell apart behind her. "Stop crying, Troy," she said without even glancing in his direction. "Stop that crying right now. You're 20 years old, not a child. Act like a man or you'll go to your room early again. Do you understand me?" The word again hit me like a punch to the chest, like all the air had been sucked out of the room. Again. How many times had she sent him to his room early? How many nights had I been at work while something was happening at home that I didn't know about? Maya touched my arm, her eyes pleading with me to see what she was seeing, to understand what every instinct she had as a nurse and an aunt was screaming at her. But Nedra was my wife, the woman I'd married 7 years ago, the woman who'd given birth to our son, the woman I'd built a life with. How could I believe she was capable of what Maya's eyes were suggesting? Later that night, after Maya had left with a tight hug and a whispered, "Call me if you need anything," after Nedra had gone to bed with a cold, "I hope you've thought about what I said," I knocked softly on Troy's door. He didn't answer, but I opened it anyway, my heart pounding in my chest. Troy was sitting on his bed in the dark room, the only light coming from the street lamp outside his window. He had his knees pulled up to his chest, his arms wrapped around his legs, rocking slightly back and forth in a motion that made my stomach turn with worry. When he saw me standing in the doorway, his eyes went wide, not with relief or happiness like they used to when I'd come home from work. With fear, pure, undiluted fear that no person should ever feel when looking at their parent. "Dad," he whispered, his voice barely audible, cracking with emotion and terror. "Please, don't tell Mama I was talking to you. Please, Daddy, please don't tell her." I froze in the doorway, my hand still on the doorknob, my mind struggling to process what he'd just said. He hadn't called me Daddy since he was a child. The regression alone told me how terrified he was. "Troy, what do you mean? Why can't you talk to me? I'm your dad. You can always talk to me." He shook his head frantically, tears streaming down his face now, his breathing becoming rapid and panicked. "She said if I tell you anything, if I say anything about what happens when you're at work, it'll get worse. She said it'll get so much worse. Please, Dad, please just go back to your room. Please don't make her angry. I can't take it if it gets worse." My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears, could feel it in my throat. could sense it in every nerve ending in my body. I moved slowly into the room, trying not to scare him more than he already was, and sat down carefully on the edge of his bed. Troy, I need you to tell me what you mean. Worse than what, son? What's been happening when I'm at work? He looked at me for a long moment, his eyes searching my face like he was trying to decide if he could trust me, if telling me would really make things better or just make everything worse like Nedra had promised. Then, with hands that shook so badly, I thought he might not be able to do it. He slowly pulled up the sleeve of his shirt. The bruises went all the way up his arm. Not just the ones I'd seen at dinner. Those were just the tip of the iceberg. Dark purple bruises, fresh and angry looking, circled his bicep like fingerprints. Yellow-green bruises in the healing stage covered his forearm. There were marks on his wrist that looked like someone had grabbed him and twisted. She comes to my room every night after you leave for work, Troy whispered, his voice so small and broken that I had to lean in to hear him. She waits until she thinks I'm asleep, and then she comes in with the rolling pin from the kitchen. The wooden one. She says I'm too weak, that I embarrass her in front of people, that I'm 20 years old and should be a man by now, but you've made me soft and pathetic, that you're not here to protect me, so she has to make me strong the only way she knows how. His voice broke completely then, dissolving into sobs. I try not to cry, Dad. I try so hard not to cry because crying makes her angrier, but it hurts so much. It hurts so much, and I'm so tired, and I'm so scared all the time, and I didn't know what to do because she said if I told you, she'd make it worse. She said she'd hurt me even more, and then she'd tell you that I was lying, that I was making it up, and you'd believe her because she's your wife, and I'm just her failure of a son who can't get anything right. I pulled him into my arms then, holding him as tightly as I could without hurting his bruised body, and he sobbed into my chest, deep, broken, desperate sobs that sounded like they were being ripped out of his soul. These weren't the cries of a young adult who'd had a bad day. These were the cries of someone who'd been systematically tortured and terrorized for months, who'd carried this terrible secret alone because he was too afraid to tell anyone. How long, Troy? I asked, my own voice shaking now, my own tears falling into his hair. How long has she been doing this to you? He looked up at me with eyes that had seen too much, eyes that looked decades older than they should, eyes that would haunt me for the rest of my life. Since you started working nights, Dad. 8 months. Every single night for 8 months. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what he was telling me. 8 months. 240 nights, give or take. 240 nights of my adult son being beaten and terrorized while I was at work, thinking he was safe at home, thinking his mother was respecting his space and treating him with the dignity a 20-year-old deserved. Maya had been right. My gut had been right. All those times over the past months when something had fell off, when Troy had seemed withdrawn or scared, when he'd flinched at sudden movements or looked at his mother with an expression I couldn't quite identify. I'd been seeing the truth, but I'd let Nedra talk me out of it. I'd let her gaslight me into thinking I was overreacting, that I was being paranoid, that everything was fine. Troy gripped my shirt with both hands, his fingers twisting in the fabric. Please don't tell her you know, Dad. Please. She'll hurt me worse than she ever has. She always does when she thinks someone might find out. Please, I can't. I can't handle any more. I just can't. I kissed the top of his head, my own tears falling freely now, my heart breaking into pieces that I didn't know if I'd ever be able to put back together. Troy, listen to me. I am going to fix this. I promise you with everything I am. I am going to fix this and make sure she never hurts you again. But I need proof. I need her to show me what she's really doing when I'm not here. Because if I confront her without proof, she'll deny it and twist it and make it seem like I'm crazy or like you're lying. Do you understand? He nodded against my chest, still crying but quieter now. I'm going to protect you, son. Starting right now. I'm going to make this right. The next morning, after Nedra had left for work and Troy had gone to his classes at community college, moving slowly and carefully like his whole body ached, I sat in my car in the driveway and tried to figure out what to do. I called Maya. I need your honest opinion about something, I said without preamble, without explanation. Okay. Her voice was cautious, like she knew this conversation was going to be difficult. Do you think Nedra is hurting Troy? Really hurting him, I mean. Not just strict discipline or whatever she's calling it. Actually abusing him. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then, in a voice that was absolutely certain, absolutely convinced, "Yes. Robert, yes. I've thought so for months, but I didn't know how to tell you without proof. Last night at dinner, when I saw those bruises and the way Troy reacted to her, that's not normal. That's abuse. That's a young man who's been terrorized." The certainty in her voice should have made me feel validated, but instead it just made me feel sick. If Maya had suspected for months, how many other people had noticed something wrong? How many signs had I missed? "Why didn't you say something earlier?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Because it wasn't my place to accuse your wife of child abuse without concrete proof, Robert. And Troy's an adult, legally, I mean. Which makes it even more complicated. Even if I had said something, what would you have done? Asked Nedra if she was beating your son? She would have denied it, turned it around on me, driven a wedge between you and the one person who was trying to help. You had to see it for yourself to believe it. She was right. Of course she was right. So what do I do now? Get proof. Real, undeniable proof that will hold up and protect Troy. Because, Robert, if you're going to accuse her, if you're going to try to get him away from her, you need evidence that can't be explained away or dismissed." That's when she mentioned the hidden camera. At first, the idea made me feel sick. Spying on my own wife? Installing surveillance in my own home? What kind of marriage had we built where I needed to do something like that? But then I thought about Troy's face, the fear in his eyes, the bruises covering his arms, the 8 months of torture he'd endured alone. Where would I even get something like that? I asked. Electronics store. They sell all kinds of hidden cameras now. Ones that look like clocks, smoke detectors, USB chargers. You install it, access it from an app on your phone, and you'll be able to see exactly what's happening when you're not there. Isn't that illegal? In your own home? I'm not a lawyer, Robert. If you're concerned, consult one. But I'll tell you this. Your son is being abused, and you need proof to stop it. But I didn't have time for lawyers. I didn't have time for legal consultations and careful planning. Troy was going to be alone with Nedra tonight, and tomorrow night, and every night until I did something to stop it. That afternoon, I drove to an electronics store 30 minutes away, somewhere Nedra wouldn't randomly run into me. I told my supervisor I needed to take care of some personal business, and I'd be in late for my shift. The store was overwhelming, bright lights, rows of gadgets, technology one barely understood. A young clerk approached me, probably in his early 20s, with enthusiastic eyes and a name tag that said Josh. "Can I help you find something, sir?" I hesitated, then decided to just be direct. "I need a hidden camera. Something small and discreet that I can access remotely from my phone. For home security." Josh's enthusiasm dimmed slightly, replaced by something more cautious. "For home security? Like, you're worried about break-ins?" "Something like that. I have concerns about my son's safety when I'm not home." Something in my tone must have communicated the urgency and the pain, because Josh's expression shifted from cautious to understanding. "Okay, let me show you what we have." He led me to a display of various surveillance devices. Cameras disguised as smoke detectors, USB chargers, pins, picture frames, and digital clocks. The clock was perfect. It looked exactly like a standard digital alarm clock that could sit on a nightstand or desk without raising suspicion. "I'll take the clock." Josh explained how to set it up, how to download the app, how to access the live feed and recorded footage from anywhere. It was easier than I'd expected. Almost too easy. "Just a heads up," Josh said as he was ringing me up, his voice dropping to something more confidential. "If you're recording someone without their knowledge, even in your own home, it can get legally complicated. You might want to make sure you're not violating any privacy laws. It's my son's room. I have every right to monitor my own home for safety purposes." Josh nodded slowly, but there was something in his eyes, pity, maybe, or recognition. Like he knew I wasn't just worried about break-ins, like he understood that something terrible was happening behind the story I was telling. "Good luck, sir. I hope everything works out okay." I drove home with the camera in a bag on my passenger seat, my stomach churning with a mixture of determination and guilt. This was a violation. I knew it was. I was installing a hidden camera to spy on my wife without her knowledge or consent. But I was also installing it to protect my son from someone who was hurting him. That night, Nedra had book club, a weekly Thursday night event where she and a group of women from her work met to discuss novels, and drink wine. She'd be gone from 7 o'clock to 9:00 p.m., which would give me a 2-hour window to install the camera. "Hey, Troy," I said as she was getting ready to leave. "Can you go to the living room for a bit? I need to do something in your room." He looked confused but nodded. "Did I do something wrong?" "No, son. Not at all. I just need to take care of something. I'll call you back when I'm done." After Nedra left and Troy was safely downstairs, I went into his room and closed the door behind me. My hands were shaking as I pulled the camera clock out of its box. Such a small, innocuous thing to carry so much weight, to potentially change all of our lives. I positioned it carefully on Troy's desk where it had a clear view of his bed and the door. Then I downloaded the app on my phone and tested the connection. The feed came through crystal clear. I could see Troy's bed, his desk, the door, the window, everything. I tested it by walking around the room, checking the angles, making sure there were no blind spots. It was perfect. Too perfect. I stood there in my son's bedroom, looking at the hidden camera that would either vindicate my suspicions or prove me to be a paranoid husband who'd violated his wife's trust and privacy for nothing. The guilt was overwhelming. What kind of person spies on their spouse? What kind of marriage had we built where I felt this was necessary? But then I remembered Troy's face when he'd pulled up his sleeve, the fear in his voice when he'd whispered, "Please don't tell Mama I was talking," the way he flinched whenever Nedra moved too quickly. This wasn't about my marriage or my trust issues or my guilt. This was about protecting my son. I closed Troy's door and called him back upstairs. "All done, son," I said with a smile that felt like it might crack my face. That night, I went to work. I sat at my desk in the warehouse, going through the motions of inventory management and shipping schedules, but my mind was elsewhere. Every 15 minutes, I checked the camera feed on my phone. 10:30 p.m., Troy was at his desk, working on what looked like a design project for school. 11 p.m., he was getting ready for bed. 11:15 p.m., he was in bed, scrolling through his phone. 11:30 p.m., the lights were off, and I could see his shape under the covers. Midnight came and went. Nothing. 1 a.m. Still nothing. 1:30 a.m. Troy was sleeping. Maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe tonight wouldn't be the night. Maybe Nedra had sensed something was different and decided not to go to his room. At 1:47 a.m., I watched my bedroom door open on the camera feed. Nedra stepped out into the hallway, moving quietly, carefully. She stood there for a moment, listening to make sure Troy was asleep, making sure the house was quiet. Then she walked to Troy's room and opened the door. She was holding the wooden rolling pin. My hands went numb. The phone nearly slipped from my grip as I watched Nedra enter Troy's room. The rolling pin held loosely in her right hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like this was just another part of her nightly routine. I should have left immediately. Should have jumped in my car and raced home. But I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. I needed to see this. I needed to witness with my own eyes what Troy had been trying to tell me, what my gut had been screaming at me for months. I watched as she approached Troy's bed, her movements deliberate and practiced. This wasn't the first time. This was a ritual she'd perfected over 8 months, 240 nights of terror. She reached down and yanked the covers off Troy's sleeping body in one swift motion. Troy jolted awake, his eyes flying open, and the expression on his face, pure, animal terror, made me want to put my fist through the wall. This was how my son woke up every night. Not peacefully, not safely, but to the sight of his mother standing over him with a weapon. "Sit up," Nedra's voice came through my phone speaker, cold and emotionless. Troy scrambled to obey, pushing himself up against his headboard, his whole body already trembling, already bracing for what was coming. Even in the dim light from the street lamp, I could see he was shaking. "Do you know why I'm here?" she asked, her tone almost conversational, like they were discussing the weather. "No, Mama," Troy whispered. Even through the grainy video feed, I could see tears already forming in his eyes. "Don't lie to me. You know exactly why. You embarrassed me today. Again. I didn't mean to. You came home from your college class and went straight to your room without even acknowledging me. Like I'm not even worth a greeting. Like you're too good to speak to your own mother. I was just tired from class. You were just being disrespectful. Like you always are. Like your father has taught you to be." She moved closer, and I watched Troy shrink back against the headboard, trying to make himself smaller. "Your father works nights. So he doesn't see this. He doesn't see how disrespectful you are. He comes home, and you put on your little act, and he thinks you're perfect. But I know better. I see the truth. She raised the rolling pin, and Troy's hands came up instinctively to protect his face. Put your hands down. If you try to block, it'll be twice as bad. You know the rules. You're 20 years old. You should know better by now. Troy lowered his hands slowly, his whole body shaking, tears streaming silently down his face. The first strike hit him on the shoulder. Hard. Hard enough that I heard the impact through my phone speaker. Troy made a sound. Not quite a scream, not quite a cry. And immediately tried to muffle it by pressing his hand over his mouth. That's right. Stay quiet. Your father's at work. There's no one to save you. It's just you and me. Just like it is every night. She hit him again. On the upper arm this time. Then the other shoulder. Each impact was controlled, measured, hitting hard enough to hurt, hard enough to leave marks, but carefully avoiding anywhere that would be easily visible when he was dressed. This was practiced. This was calculated. This wasn't rage or loss of control. This was systematic, methodical abuse. You think your daddy's going to protect you? He's not here. He's never here when this happens. And do you know why? Because I'm your mother, and he trusts me. He believes me when I tell him you're fine. When I tell him you're just going through a phase. When I tell him you need tough love to become a real man. She hit him 3 more times in quick succession, and I watched my son's posture crumble. He curled forward, his arms wrapped around his torso, his body shaking with the effort of trying to cry silently. Sit up. I'm not done with you yet. Please, Mama, Troy sobbed. Please, I'll be better. I'll be more respectful. I'll do whatever you want. Please. You've been saying that for 8 months, and you just keep disappointing me. You keep being weak. You keep acting like a child instead of the man you're supposed to be. You're 20 years old, Troy. 20. And you're still pathetic. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing and start changing. Her voice rose slightly, then immediately lowered again, like she'd remembered she needed to stay quiet too. This is for your own good, Troy. Someday you'll understand that. Someday when you're actually a man and you're strong and you can handle the world, you'll thank me for making you this way. For fixing what your father broke. She hit him again, and again, and again. I counted 7 more strikes before she finally stopped. Troy was curled up on his bed, his whole body convulsing with silent sobs, his face pressed into his pillow to muffle the sounds. Nedra stood over him, breathing hard, the rolling pin still in her hand. This is what happens when you disrespect me, when you show weakness, when you act like a child instead of a man. She leaned down close to him, her voice dropping to a whisper that I had to strain to hear. And if you ever tell your father what happens here, if you ever breathe one word about our nightly sessions, I will make this look like nothing. Do you understand me? I will hurt you so badly that these bruises will seem like love taps. And then I'll tell your father that you're lying, that you're making things up because you're angry or mentally unstable. And he'll believe me because I'm your mother and I would never hurt you. Do you understand? Yes, ma'am. Troy whispered into his pillow, his voice broken and defeated. Say it back to me. Tell me you understand. I understand, Mama. I won't tell anyone. I promise. Good boy. She reached down and actually patted his head, a gesture that would have looked tender to anyone who hadn't just watched what preceded it. Now go to sleep. And tomorrow, you better not embarrass me again. No weakness. No disrespect. Be the man I need you to be, not the pathetic child your fathers turned you into. She walked out of the room, closing the door softly behind her, leaving Troy alone in the dark with his pain and his fear and his bruises. I watched my son cry into his pillow for another 15 minutes before exhaustion finally dragged him into fitful sleep. Even then, he twitched and whimpered, clearly having nightmares, clearly unable to find peace even in unconsciousness. My phone slipped from my hands and clattered onto my desk. I barely noticed. I was shaking so hard I thought I might fall out of my chair. My vision was blurred with tears and rage and horror all mixed together into something I didn't have words for. The woman I'd married, the woman I'd built a life with, the woman I'd trusted with the most precious person in my world, had just tortured our adult son for 11 minutes while speaking to him in tones that alternated between cold indifference and venomous cruelty. And this wasn't the first time. This was routine. This was what happened every night I went to work. I had to leave, had to get to Troy, Had to. No. I forced myself to stop, to think, to plan. If I went home right now in a rage, what would happen? I'd confront Nedra. She'd deny it. She'd say I was crazy, that the video was doctored, that I'd set her up because I wanted to leave her. She'd turn it around, make herself the victim, and Troy would still be trapped. I needed to be smart. Needed to document everything. Needed to build a case so airtight that Nedra couldn't lie her way out of it. I saved the video file to my phone. Then I emailed it to myself. Then I uploaded it to 3 different cloud storage accounts. Then I texted the link to Maya with a message. Don't watch this unless something happens to me. But if it does, this is proof of what Nedra's been doing to Troy. My hands were still shaking so badly I could barely type, but I managed to get it all done. Then I sat there in my office at the warehouse, surrounded by boxes of inventory and shipping manifests, and tried to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do next. I couldn't leave Troy there. Not for one more night. Not for one more hour. But I also couldn't just burst in and take him without a plan. Without protection. Without making sure that Nedra couldn't twist this into something where I looked like the bad guy. At 3:15 a.m., with my shift still having 3 hours left, I did the only thing I could think of. I called Maya. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice thick with sleep and confusion. Robert? It's 3 in the morning. What's wrong? Is it Mom? Maya. My voice cracked on her name, and suddenly I was sobbing into the phone, months of stress and fear and denial all pouring out at once. Maya, I need you. I need you to help me get Troy out of that house. Tonight. Right now. I heard rustling on the other end as she sat up in bed. Robert, you're scaring me. What happened? I watched it. On the camera. I watched her hurt him, and Maya, it was. I couldn't finish the sentence. Couldn't find words for what I'd witnessed. Send me the link. Right now. I forwarded her the cloud storage link with trembling fingers. I heard her open it, heard her sharp intake of breath as the video started playing. She made it maybe 3 minutes before I heard her phone clatter onto something. Heard her say, oh my God, Robert, that fucking bitch. I need to get him out of there. Yes, absolutely. Right now. I could hear her moving around now, getting dressed, grabbing her keys. But we have to be smart about this. Troy's 20. He's legally an adult. But if you just show up and he leaves with you, Nedra could claim it's parental interference or something. We need an excuse. Something she can't argue with. What kind of excuse? Let me think. She was quiet for a moment, and I could practically hear her mind working through options. Okay, I've got it. I'm going to go to your house right now and tell Nedra that there's been a family emergency. That mom fell and is in the hospital, and that Troy needs to come with me because the doctors aren't sure how much time she has left and all the grandkids should be there. Nedra won't be able to say no to that without looking like a monster. What about Mom? Won't she? I'll call her after and explain everything. She'll understand. Robert, we need to get Troy out of that house before Nedra wakes up tomorrow morning and realizes what you saw. Who knows what she'll do if she suspects you know. She was right. Of course she was right. Okay, go get him. Please, Maya. Don't let her hurt him again. I won't. I promise. Once I have him safe, I'll text you. Then you come straight to my apartment. We'll figure out the rest from there. She hung up, and I sat alone in my office, staring at the clock, watching the minutes tick by with agonizing slowness. 3:47 a.m. Maya should be at my house by now. 3:52 a.m. She should be knocking on the door. 4:03 a.m. My phone buzzed. Maya, I have him. Nedra bought the story. Troy's with me. He's safe. Come to my apartment when you can. The relief that flooded through me was so intense, I actually had to put my head down on my desk for a moment. Troy was safe. Maya had him. Nedra couldn't hurt him anymore. I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and walked straight to my supervisor's office. Mike, I have a family emergency. My mom's in the hospital, and I need to leave. Now, Mike looked up from his paperwork, saw whatever expression was on my face, and didn't ask questions. Go. We'll cover your shift. Let me know if you need anything. I drove to Maya's apartment going 20 miles over the speed limit the entire way, my hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel, my mind replaying that video over and over and over. Maya's apartment was across town, a modest one-bedroom in a complex with a security gate. She buzzed me in without making me explain over the intercom, and I took the stairs to her second-floor unit 2 at a time. The door flew open before I could knock. Troy was standing there, still in his sleep clothes, his eyes red and swollen from crying. Bruises already forming on his shoulders where his t-shirt collar didn't quite cover them. "Dad," that one word, spoken in a voice that was equal parts relief and devastation, broke something inside me that I don't think will ever fully heal. I pulled him into my arms, holding him as tightly as I dared without hurting his bruised body. He was taller than me now, had been for a few years, but in that moment, holding him while he sobbed into my shoulder, he felt like the little boy I'd once carried to bed when he fell asleep on the couch. "I'm so sorry," I kept saying, over and over like a prayer or a penance. "I'm so sorry, Troy. I'm so sorry I didn't know sooner. I'm so sorry I left you alone with her. I'm so sorry." "You didn't know," he choked out between sobs. "She was really good at hiding it. She said if I ever told you, she'd make it so much worse. I was so scared, Dad. I was so scared all the time. I know, son. I know. But you're safe now. I've got you. She's never going to hurt you again. Do you hear me? Never." Maya appeared in the doorway behind us, her own eyes red, her face tight with barely controlled rage. "Robert, come inside. We need to talk about what happens next." I guided Troy to Maya's couch. He sat down heavily, like all the energy had drained out of him. Maya brought him water and sat in the chair across from us. "I need to examine his injuries," she said gently. "Document everything for when we go to the police. Is that okay, Troy?" Troy nodded, not meeting her eyes. Maya had him remove his shirt, and the damage was worse than I'd imagined. The video had shown me the abuse as it happened, but seeing the results in person, seeing the full canvas of bruises covering my son's body, was something else entirely. Purple and black bruises on both shoulders. Linear marks across his upper back where the rolling pin had struck. Finger-shaped bruises on his upper arms from where she'd grabbed him. Yellow-green bruises in various stages of healing, showing that this had been going on for exactly as long as Troy had said. Months and months of systematic abuse. And Troy was an adult, 20 years old, which somehow made it even more devastating that he'd been suffering this alone, that he'd felt he couldn't tell anyone, that he'd endured this abuse while trying to go to college and build a life. Maya took photographs with her phone, her professional detachment slipping occasionally to reveal the aunt who was devastated by what she was documenting. "Troy," she said softly when she was done, "have there been injuries anywhere else? Any places that hurt that we haven't looked at yet?" He nodded and carefully pulled up his pants legs to show bruises on his thighs and calves, places that would never show when he was dressed, places that Nedra had specifically chosen because they'd be hidden. This wasn't random violence. This wasn't a parent losing control in a moment of anger. This was calculated, strategic abuse designed to inflict maximum pain while leaving minimal visible evidence. Maya documented everything, taking photos from multiple angles, making notes about the size and location and approximate age of each injury. When she was finally done, she helped Troy put his clothes back on. "You were very brave," she told him. "I know that was hard, but these pictures are going to help make sure your mom can't hurt you anymore." Troy looked at me, his eyes wide and scared. "Are we going to the police? Like right now?" I glanced at the clock on Maya's wall. It was almost 5 a.m. "Yes, son. We're going to the police station this morning, and we're going to show them the video and the pictures, and they're going to make sure you're safe." "What about Mama? Will she know?" "Will she? She won't be able to get to you. The police will make sure of that. And by the time she realizes what's happening, there will be legal protection in place to keep her away from you. What if she tells them I'm lying? What if they believe her instead of me?" "Troy," I cupped his face in my hands, making him look at me. "I have video proof of what she did to you. I watched it happen. The police will watch it too. She can say whatever she wants, but the truth is right there on video. She can't lie her way out of this." He searched my eyes for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay, I trust you, Dad." Those 4 words, "I trust you, Dad," after everything I'd failed to see, after all the months I'd left him alone with his abuser, felt like both a gift and a judgment. He fell asleep like that, sitting on Maya's couch with his head on my shoulder, exhausted from fear and relief and the emotional toll of the longest night of his life. Maya covered him with a blanket and gestured for me to follow her into the kitchen. "What's the plan?" she asked quietly, keeping her voice low so we wouldn't wake Troy. "I take him to the police station as soon as the sun's up. File a report. Show them the video. Get protection for him. Robert, you need to know, Troy's 20. He's legally an adult. This isn't child abuse in the legal sense. It's domestic violence, assault, battery. The process might be different than if he were a minor. I don't care what they call it. She's been torturing him for 8 months. There has to be something they can do. There is. Restraining orders, assault charges, criminal prosecution. I'm just warning you that the system treats adult victims differently than child victims. But the evidence is solid. The video alone should be enough. And Nedra? When is she going to realize Troy's gone? I checked my phone. No missed calls yet, no texts. She'll wake up in a couple hours and realize Troy's not in his room. She'll probably call my phone. I'm not going to answer. Let her panic. Let her wonder what happened. And when she figures out you know about the abuse, by then, hopefully, she'll already be facing charges and it won't matter. Maya nodded, but her expression was troubled. Robert, I need you to be prepared for the possibility that this is going to get ugly. Nedra's not going to go quietly. She's going to fight. She's going to hire a lawyer and claim you're trying to control Troy, or that the video is fake, or that she was just using tough love. You need to be ready for a battle. I don't care how hard she fights. She's not getting near Troy ever again. At 6:47 a.m., my phone started ringing. Nedra. I let it go to voicemail. She called again, and again, and again. After the 5th call, she left a voicemail. I played it on speakers so Maya could hear. Robert, where the hell is Troy? Maya came and got him last night saying there was some emergency with your mother, but I just called the hospital and they said there's no patient by that name. What is going on? Call me back right now. Her voice was tight with barely controlled panic, but there was something else underneath it too. Suspicion, like she was starting to realize that this might not be about her mother-in-law at all. The calls kept coming. I blocked her number. At 7:30 a.m., Troy woke up. He looked around Maya's living room for a moment, disoriented, like he'd forgotten where he was. Then reality crashed back and his whole body tensed. Dad? Is Mama? She's at home. She doesn't know where you are, and she can't get to you. He relaxed slightly. What happens now? Now we get you some breakfast, and then we go talk to the police. Will I have to tell them everything? About all the times she hurt me? Yes. But son, you've already been so brave. You told me the truth, even though you were scared. You let Aunt Maya take pictures of your bruises. You can do this one more thing, and then the hard part will be over. He nodded, but I could see the fear still lingering in his eyes. Maya made pancakes, but Troy could barely eat. He pushed the food around his plate, taking small bites when we encouraged him, but mostly just staring at the table. At 9 a.m., we got in my car, Maya, Troy, and me, and drove to the police station. The building was imposing, all brick and concrete and authority. Troy walked close beside me, his shoulders hunched, as we made our way through the front doors. The desk sergeant looked up as we approached. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and gray hair pulled back in a professional bun. Can I help you? I took a deep breath. This was it. The moment where everything became real and official and irreversible. I need to report domestic violence and assault. I have video evidence. And I need protection for my son. Her expression shifted immediately from routine to focused. She picked up her phone. Let me get a detective for you right away. Please, have a seat. We sat in those hard plastic chairs in the lobby, Troy pressed against my side, Maya on his other side creating a protective barrier. My leg bounced nervously. Troy's hands shook. Maya sat perfectly still, her nurse face firmly in place. 10 minutes later, a detective emerged from the back. A black man in his 40s with intelligent eyes and an air of competence that I found reassuring. Mr. Dodson? I'm Detective Marcus Reeves. Come with me. He led us to a small interview room with gray walls and a metal table. A camera blinked red in the corner. Now, he said, sitting across from us and pulling out a notepad. Tell me everything. I told Detective Reeves the whole story. From the beginning. The behavior changes I'd noticed in Troy 8 months ago when I started working night shifts. The gradual withdrawal, the dark circles under his eyes, the way he'd started flinching at sudden movements. The bruises that appeared and disappeared in patterns that matched my work schedule. The fear that had replaced the confidence in my son's eyes. I told him about the confrontation at dinner with Maya present, about Nedra's cold dismissal of my concerns, about her gaslighting and manipulation. I told him about finding Troy in his room that night, trembling and terrified, about the bruises covering his arms, about his whispered confession that the abuse had been going on for 8 months. And then I showed him the video. Detective Reeves watched it in complete silence. His jaw tightened, his hands clenched into fists on the table. When it ended, he set my phone down carefully, like he was afraid he might crush it if he held it too tightly. Mr. Dodson, I need to ask you and Troy some questions, and I need you both to be completely honest with me. Okay. He turned to Troy first. Troy, you're 20 years old, correct? Yes, sir. And you're living at home while attending community college? Yes, sir. How long has your mother been physically abusing you? Troy's voice was quiet but steady. 8 months. Since Dad started working nights. And it happened how frequently? Almost every night. Sometimes she'd skip a night if Dad was home, or if she thought I'd been good. But mostly every night. Where did she hit you? Troy gestured to his shoulders, arms, back, legs. Places that wouldn't show when I was dressed. She said that way nobody would know and nobody would believe me if I told, because I'm an adult, and people would think I could just leave if I wanted to. Did she ever explain why she was doing this? She said I was weak, that I embarrassed her, that I should be a man by now, but Dad made me soft. She said she had to toughen me up, make me into someone who could handle the real world. Detective Reeves made careful notes. Did she ever threaten you about telling someone? Every time. She said if I told Dad or anyone, she'd make it worse. And she said she'd tell everyone I was lying, that I was mentally unstable or trying to get attention, and they'd believe her because she's my mom, and why would a 20-year-old man stay if he was really being abused? The detective turned to me. Mr. Dodson, the camera you installed, did your wife know about it? No. I installed it specifically to document what I suspected was happening. And you installed it 2 days ago? Yes. That video is from last night. Troy, Detective Reeves said gently, why didn't you leave? You're an adult. You could have moved out, stayed with friends, gotten your own place. Troy's voice cracked. Because I'm in college and I don't have money for rent. Because she told me if I left, she'd make sure I couldn't finish school, that she'd cut me off from everything. Because I was scared and ashamed and I didn't know who would believe me. Because she's my mom and part of me kept hoping she'd stop, that she'd go back to being the person she used to be when I was younger. Detective Reeves nodded slowly. Okay, here's what's going to happen. Based on what you've told me and what I've seen in that video, I'm going to pursue charges of domestic violence, assault and battery, and criminal intimidation. We'll also petition for a restraining order to keep your mother away from you. Troy, you're an adult, so you have full agency here. You can decide if you want to press charges, where you want to stay, all of that. Do you want to move forward with pressing charges against your mother? Troy looked at me, then back at the detective. Yes, I want her to face consequences for what she did. Good. That's good. Mr. Dodson, where has Troy been staying since last night? With my sister, Maya Thompson. She's a nurse at Riverside General. And is that where he'll continue to stay? For now, yes. We're looking for our own place, but until we find something, he's staying with Maya where he's safe. Troy, do you feel safe there? Yes, sir. Okay. Detective Reeves stood. I'm going to start the paperwork for charges and a restraining order. We'll also need Troy to give a formal statement, and we'll want him examined by a doctor to document his injuries officially. Can you go to Riverside General today? Yes, Maya spoke up. I can arrange for him to be seen by our domestic violence specialist. Over the next 3 hours, we went through the process. I gave my formal statement. Troy gave his statement to a specially trained interviewer. Maya provided the photographs and her own observations. At 2 p.m., we took Troy to Riverside General where a doctor specializing in domestic violence cases examined him, documented every injury, took official photographs for the record. You're very brave, Troy, the doctor told him when she was done. I know this wasn't easy. Will the pictures help my dad? Troy asked. Yes, they'll help make sure you stay safe and that your mother faces appropriate consequences. That evening, Detective Reeves called me. Mr. Dodson, we have a warrant for your wife's arrest. We're going to her workplace tomorrow morning to take her into custody. I wanted you to know so you're prepared. She's going to be angry. She's going to deny everything. And she's going to try to contact Troy. The restraining order will be in effect by tomorrow afternoon. But I'm warning you now, enforcement can be tricky. You need to be vigilant. Keep Troy away from any place she might go. Don't answer her calls. Document any attempts she makes to contact either of you. Understood. The next morning, Nedra was arrested at her workplace. According to Detective Reeves, she'd screamed that I'd set her up, that the video was fake, that Troy was lying because I'd manipulated him. She was arraigned that afternoon. The judge set bail at $50,000 and issued the restraining order. Nedra was to stay at least 500 feet away from Troy and me, and she was prohibited from any contact. She made bail within hours. Someone, maybe her parents, maybe a friend, posted the bond. 2 weeks later, we had the preliminary hearing. The courthouse was cold the morning of the preliminary hearing. Troy wore a button-down shirt and khakis, looking older and more serious than his 20 years. But I could see his hands shaking as we walked through security. Lisa Higgins, the prosecutor assigned to our case, met us outside the courtroom. She was sharp-eyed and competent, radiating an air of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. Troy, you ready for this? I think so. Remember what we practiced. Tell the truth, take your time, and if you need a break, ask for one. We entered the courtroom, and there was Nedra. She sat at the defense table in a conservative dress, looking nothing like the woman on that video. When she saw Troy, her eyes filled with tears, but I felt nothing. She'd made her choices. Judge Patricia Morrison entered, and the hearing began. Lisa called me first. I testified about everything. The signs I'd missed, the confrontation at dinner, Troy's confession, the camera, the video. When they played the video for the court, I watched Troy instead. He had his eyes closed, his jaw clenched. Then it was Troy's turn. He walked to the witness stand, and despite his height, despite being 20 years old, he looked vulnerable up there. Lisa approached gently. Troy, can you tell the court about your relationship with your mother? She used to be kind. But about 8 months ago, she changed. She started coming to my room at night and hitting me with a rolling pin. How often did this happen? Almost every night for 8 months. Did she say why? She said I was weak, that I embarrassed her, that I should be a man by now, but Dad made me soft. She said she had to fix me. Did she threaten you about telling anyone? Every time. She said if I told, she'd make it worse. And she said no one would believe a 20-year-old man who claimed his mother was abusing him because people would think I could just leave if I wanted to. Then Nedra's lawyer cross-examined him. Troy, you're 20 years old. Why didn't you simply move out? Because I'm in college and can't afford rent. Because she threatened to cut me off from everything if I left. Because I was scared and didn't know who would believe me. But you could have gotten a job, found roommates. I was being abused, Troy said, his voice stronger now. People in abusive situations don't always make logical decisions because they're traumatized. That doesn't make the abuse less real. The lawyer tried several more angles, but Troy held firm. Finally, Judge Morrison spoke. I've heard enough. There is more than sufficient probable cause to bind this case over for trial. The restraining order remains in effect. Trial date will be set within 90 days. Outside, Lisa congratulated us. Troy, you were excellent up there. We'd won the first battle. 6 weeks later, Lisa called. Nedra's attorney made a plea offer. She'll plead guilty to all charges, assault, battery, domestic violence, in exchange for 5 to 7 years in prison. And Robert, she's willing to voluntarily agree to a permanent no-contact order. She'll agree never to contact Troy again, ever. That seems light. It is. But going to trial is risky. This guarantees she goes to prison and guarantees Troy is protected forever. I talked to Troy that night. They offered a plea deal. Your mom would admit what she did, go to prison for at least 5 years, and agree to never contact you again. Ever. Or we can go to trial. But there's a risk we could lose. Troy didn't hesitate. I'll take the deal. I don't want to testify again. I just want her gone. 2 weeks later, we were in court for sentencing. Nedra stood in an orange jumpsuit as the judge accepted her guilty plea. Do you understand you're admitting to domestic violence, assault, and battery against your adult son? Yes, Your Honor. And you agree to a permanent no-contact order? Yes, Your Honor. You are sentenced to 7 years in state prison with possibility of parole after 5 years. You are permanently prohibited from contacting Troy Dodson. Bailiff, remove the defendant. As they led Nedra away, she looked back at Troy. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I stood, blocking her view. You don't get to say that to him. Troy looked up at me. Is it really over? It's really over. 3 months later, I signed a lease on a 2-bedroom apartment. It wasn't much, but it was ours. Troy and I moved in with help from Maya and Mike. This is really ours. Troy asked, looking around. Really ours. Your room, your space. Safe. We adopted Max, the golden retriever from the shelter. Troy and Max became inseparable. The dog seemed to sense when Troy was having a hard day and would stay close, providing comfort. Troy started therapy with Dr. Sarah Mitchell twice a week. Slowly, he began to heal. The nightmares became less frequent. He smiled more. He started talking about his future, maybe becoming a therapist himself someday to help other abuse survivors. I got promoted to a day shift management position. Better pay, better hours, home every night. Life moved forward. Troy continued his classes at community college. He made friends in our apartment complex. He started to look and act like a young man who hadn't been terrorized for 8 months. 6 months after sentencing, a letter arrived from Nedra. She apologized, said she was in therapy, that she knew what she'd done was wrong. I showed Troy. He read it, then said, "I'm glad she's sorry, but I don't want to see her. Maybe never." That's your choice. He kept the letter in a box with all the documents from that time, a reminder of what he'd survived and overcome. One evening during a walk with Max, Troy said, "Dad, I've been thinking. Maybe someday I want to share my story. Help other people who are being abused, especially adult children who think no one will believe them. When you're ready, I'll support you." Dr. Mitchell says sometimes the best healing comes from helping others. Later, he added, "Dad, I know you still feel guilty sometimes, but you saved me. You believed me. You protected me. You're my hero. Stop feeling guilty and start feeling proud." Those words meant everything. We'd survived, and now we were thriving. If you've made it to the end of my story, thank you. Thank you for listening. I'm sharing this because abuse doesn't stop at 18. Adult children can be victims too. And they often don't report it because they think no one will believe them, because they're financially dependent, because they've been conditioned to accept it. If you're watching this and you suspect an adult in your life is being abused by a parent, partner, anyone, trust your instincts. Get proof if you can. Believe them when they tell you. Help them find resources. Troy survived because I finally listened to what my gut was screaming at me. To everyone who's survived abuse at any age, your pain was real. What happened was wrong. It wasn't your fault. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share. Leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. Troy and I are doing well. We're happy. We have Max, our apartment, our life we built together. Every night, I tell him I'm proud of him. Because I am. This is Robert Dodson, signing off. Remember, trust your instincts. Believe survivors of all ages. And never stop fighting for what's right. At Virtuous Stories, we love you.